and he was alleged over in Marseille to have been drinking on duty, drunk on duty, and dereliction of duty. And of course, that was really my first exposure to trial law. And we tried the case, and they found him guilty, court-martial. And I said, that's Navy justice. The next thing I knew, I was talking to the captain, because he thought Navy justice was really okay. And what happened with Gerhardt was he got busted from second class to third class, and they suspended all the other punishment, and they could have busted him from second class to third class at mass every morning. So it turned out to be a big case. And I remember my friend Marshmallow Al Maloney was on the court, and I didn't think he'd do it to Russell Gerhardt, but the court came in against him. But on appeal, there was an automatic appeal in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and that was my first experience with the law.
So you kind of found your sea legs then?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
What, you practiced law in the 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s, the 1980s, 90s, now 16, almost 17 years in this new millennium. What can you tell? What can you tell people like me and younger lawyers going forward?
I don't think I should need to tell you anything. You've been around since 1977. But what I would tell people is that it is a great and noble profession. Be pleased and proud to be a part of it. And I can take a lesson from my father, who was a very strong defense lawyer and very aggressive and strong man in the courtroom. At the end of the case, no matter what happened, he'd go over and shake the other lawyer's hand. And I said, well, why do you do that, Dad? He said, if you made an enemy every time you had a case, there'd be no one left to talk to. And so he was a very strong and dedicated lawyer, but he didn't lose sight of the human part of the law.
You know, along those lines, if I could just interject, you talk about the relationship between Grandpa Jack and George Tiernan.
Oh yeah, Grandpa Jack and George Tiernan. Well, George Tiernan was the prosecuting attorney in the Court of Common Pleas, and then the state's attorney. And my father had a very interesting interplay with George. And one time there was Henry Wolf, and my father had gotten him off for drunken driving, and Henry Wolf got arrested for drunken driving again. And part of what came into court was the interrogation of Henry Wolf. And he said, Izzy Jacobs got me off last time, and it'll get me off this time too. And over in the Court of Common Pleas, my father did get him off against George Tiernan. And George was quite a colorful character with his red hair.
Colorful is putting it very favorably.
Yeah.
You've known some other colorful people whose names are lost to the present generation, but there were some colorful chief clerks, were there not?
Oh, Eddie Lynch. Yeah, Eddie Lynch and Eddie Horowitz. Eddie Lynch in the Court of Common Pleas, and Eddie Horowitz in Superior Court. And of course, they really ran their fiefdoms. Now, I remember there was a time, it used to be that there was a judgment fee you had to pay at the end of a divorce case. And my father had this divorce case, and the judge granted the divorce. Judge Cavello, the father, judge, and then he reversed himself and he denied the divorce. And my father paid, he had a judgment fee for the first time, and then he had to pay another judgment fee when the judge reversed himself. And of course, it would cost $55.
That was the least of the problems in that case.
Exactly. Money didn't mean anything to my father. $55 mean anything. It was the insult. And I remember he wanted to get that $55 remitted. And Judge Borden, who was a very distinguished and intelligent judge, came down from Hartford, and he was going to remit the $55. And Eddie Horowitz came over during recess and told me he couldn't do it, and he didn't remit the $55.
I don't want you to leave out a person whom I have heard wonderful stories about. Tell us about your mom.
Oh, she was terrific. But I'll finish telling you the story about the judgment fee. So what happened? Judge Borden didn't remit the judgment fee. So my father said, "Dickie, draw up a statute." And I did draw up a statute that if the judge reversed himself on his own accord, you didn't need to pay another judgment fee, and it became the law.
It's in the books.
That's right. But about my mother, it's very kind of you to ask. And my mother was terrific in all respects. You couldn't get her mad. You could get my father mad without much trouble. But you couldn't get my mother mad at all. She was a soul of equanimity. And we'd have these big...
And her name?
Alice. Thank you. We would have these wonderful dinners on Friday nights. And my father would sometimes talk about his cases. And one Friday night, he talked about a divorce case in which he was handling, and in which this man went off to work in the morning. He forgot his wallet. He came back to the house, and what happens? He finds his wife in bed with another man. So when my father finished telling that story, my mother said, "The moral to that story is, when you go to work, don't forget your wallet."
Exactly. Exactly.
But
if you do, don't come home.
That's right. That's right. Well, she had that gentle sense of humor and just wonderful. And we were at the beach where she would row. She liked to row. She'd get into our little rowboat, and she'd put our little dog Willie in the stern seat, and she'd row across the water to the Anchor Beach to visit with my brother Howie's mother-in-law. And we had a lot of fun going up.
What can you tell us about your brothers?
Well, they were terrific lawyers. Yeah, they were both wonderful lawyers. And Buddy said just to me last week about Howard, who died on April 16th of 2015. He said he was my best friend. He was his best friend. And we did have a nice time when we all worked together. It was wonderful being with our father because he was so much fun and so colorful, and we were all doing things together. And of course, Buddy got to defend one of the people in the Smith Act, the communist cases, and he was court appointed by Judge Anderson to represent one of the individuals, a fellow named Jim Tate. And that was the case that went on, and Buddy really earned his spurs in that case. And at the end of the case, Judge Anderson threw all the guilty verdicts out, and that was during the communist.
That wasn't an easy time.
No, it wasn't. Judge Anderson was marvelous, of course. And all those people ended up, after that long trial, and there were a bunch of convictions, and he threw them all out. And that was the case. And of course, Howie and Bud did the Reddick case, a murder case, together when they were both very young. And couple named Homer and Ophelia Wright had gotten blown up in their car, and Leroy Reddick was arrested for the murder, and Howie and Buddy tried the case, and Leroy Reddick was convicted, and it was the first time he sentenced to life without parole. I think it was the first time he was ever sentenced to life without parole. While the case was on appeal, and Leroy was in prison, he died. So they never did get their appeal on that. But they were both terrific lawyers, and we had a lot of fun together. And Buddy had said that about Howie, he was my best friend. And of course they were only about 17 months apart in age, and so they did a lot of things together. And I remember as I was coming up and I was getting older, Howie kind of advised me about education and about the law. He'd gone to the University of Michigan, and he'd gone to their law school, and that was one of the law schools that I applied to because Howie was so successful and happy there, and he was a note and comment editor of the Michigan Law Review, and he was very successful, and we were very proud of him. And he became a lawyer at age 22. Howard had had ulcerative colitis, and he couldn't get into service during the war, and so he went to law school, and he, I think, completed undergraduate law school in, I think, 4.5 years. But and Buddy, of course, had the magic touch as a trial lawyer in personal injury cases, and I remember the first time they had a $150,000 case. It was a huge case at that time. And Buddy won that. Jack Flanagan was on the other side.
He also obtained at the time, the largest medical malpractice verdict in Connecticut history.
Right, the Mather case.
Side by side with Bruce.
And that's right.
And who was the judge?
The judge was Judge Jacobs-Celotto.
So the circle is completed and goes round and round, and that circle, Dick, 59 years of practice. You gonna stop practicing?
No, they're gonna have to drag me out of there. I'm just starting to have fun. We settled a nice case yesterday, and there's no time to stop.
Dick, I want to thank you for being my colleague and friend and brother at the law. I want to thank you for being a beacon and inspiration to keep going forward and settle that case tomorrow.
That's it. Thank you, Don.
Thanks for the time
Very good.
today.
We enjoyed it, and now our relationship goes back generations and may continue in the future.
God bless you, Dick.
God bless you.